wrong in this situation and it doesn't matter to you. Neither of these strategies advance your cause on a particular issue. Competitive strategies aim to make your side win and the others lose. It's a power-oriented style in which you use whether influence is available to protect your interests. It must be useful when a quick decision is required or when an unpopular action is required. Compromising strategies are attempts to find mutually acceptable solutions that partially satisfy both parties. These are particularly useful when opponents have equal power but want different things or if achieving the goals does not merit the effort required. Finally, collaborative strategies are best for an integrative approach to bargaining when aiming for win-win situation. These are most useful the parties' issues are too important to compromise when you want to learn or when you gain commitment through consensus. All of these strategies can be useful at different times for different purposes and on different people. However, it is important to remember you cannot move back and forward between these approaches. For example, once you have competitive, it's hard to become collaborative, and once you have compromised, you cannot return to non-compromise situations. So when you negotiate, start with an approach driven by logic and emotion. These are most effective approaches in persuading people and obtaining win-win outcomes, which are required in negotiation without power. Only move on to the threat/bargaining if these approaches don't work or won't work. As 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 remember, once you have started, you cannot go back. So let's see how Davis actually uses these strategies in practice to persuade people to this point of view. Jasneet would take you through the implementation parts. Thank you.
As we mentioned in negotiations, it is important to set the right tone and devise the right strategy for the situation, but this is only as effective as your implementation. Davis is basically negotiating with 11 different people, and under no circumstances is it an easy task to convince them all. How Davis did it was using different approaches at different times and targeting different people in different ways, all the while using logic and emotion to achieve his goals. The ability to take things step by step and build up a logic argument is crucial. Davis does this expertly by using the avoidance strategy to postpone discussing points he is not ready for because he feels more foundations must be put in place. He uses an accommodating strategy with the other jurors about things he deems unimportant to changeable, such as taking breaks or setting an end time to negotiation. He also compromises when he feels it would be advantageous, such as when he makes the offer that if a secret ballot vote was still 11-1 in favor of guilty, he would agree. However, he only uses the strategies when he feels it is in his long-term interests and will help him reach his ultimate goal doing this. What Davis does most successfully as an effective negotiator does is to use strategies to persuade people according to that individual's personality and beliefs. One of the jury members is adamant that because the defendant was overheard saying "I'll kill you" after he was struck by his father, this proves the defendant is guilty. Davis, however, believes this was just said in the heat of the moment and does not mean anything. Watch how Davis using a very emotional driven competition strategy to attempt to persuade this very emotional juror.
Cut.
Brother, I've seen all kinds of dishonesty in my day, but this little display takes the cake. You all come in here with your hearts bleeding all over the floor about slum kids and injustice. You listen to some fairy tales. Suddenly you start getting through to some of these old ladies. Well, you're not getting through to me. I've had enough. What's the matter with you guys? You all know he's guilty. He's got to burn. You're letting him slip through our fingers.
Slip through our fingers? Are you his executioner?
I'm one of them.
Perhaps you'd like to pull the switch.
For this kid, you bet I would.
I feel sorry for you. What it must feel like to want to pull the switch. Ever since you walked into this room, you've been acting like a self-appointed public avenger. You want to see this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a sadist.
Kill him out!
You don't really mean you'll kill me, do you?
Davis was very direct and combative with this juror and implemented his strategy perfectly. Davis is also able to employ logic as a persuasion strategy very effectively.
I'd have asked for another lawyer, I think. I mean, if I was on trial for my life, I'd want my lawyer to tear the prosecution witnesses to shreds, or at least try to. Look, there was one alleged eyewitness to this killing. Someone else claims he heard the killing, saw the boy run out afterwards, and there was a lot of circumstantial evidence. But actually, those two witnesses were the entire case for the prosecution. Supposing they're wrong.
What do you mean, supposing they're wrong? What's the point of having witnesses at all?
Could they be wrong?
What are you trying to say? Those people sat on the stand under oath.
They're only people. People make mistakes. Could they be wrong?
Well, no, I don't think so.
You know so.
Oh, come on, nobody can know a thing like that. This isn't an exact science.
That's right, it isn't.
He is very clear and calm throughout. For example, he uses a slightly more collaborative strategy of trying to convince a very logical juror with a logical argument. The defendant claimed he was at the movies when the murder occurred. However, when questioned by the police later that night, he could not remember the name of the movie or its stars. The juror believes this is because the defendant did not attend the film, while Davis believes it was because he was under emotional stress.
I'd like to go over something if you gentlemen don't mind. An important point for the prosecution was the fact that after the boy claimed he'd been at the movies during the hours that the killing took place, couldn't remember the names of the movies or the stars who appeared in them. This gentleman here has brought that point in here several times.
That's correct. It's the only alibi the boy offered, and he himself couldn't back it up with any details at all.
Putting yourself in the boy's place, do you think you could remember details after an upsetting experience such as being slapped in the face by your father?
I think so. Is there any special details to remember? The boy couldn't remember the names of the movies he saw because he wasn't there that night.
According to the police testimony in court, the boy